A desert is the landscape of the imaginary and the sacred. It's where you go to have conversations with God. And on the Greenland ice cap, in the midst of a powerful windstorm, you'd better pray that your tent doesn't rip, because then it's game over. This would make it day 2 that Eric and I have been pinned down inside the tent by nasty weather that's held snowdrift at our thin island walls and cranked up the decibels for what seemed like endless, deafening hours.
Well, it's turned into a full-on blizzard out there. We've been pinned down in the tent now for about 16 hours. Winds in excess of 60 and gusting up to 70 miles per hour outside.
Will they come down in an hour, 2 hours, 8 hours? Nobody knows. We'll just wait and see.
Aside from time lost, I have a growing concern. We're slowly being entombed by rising walls of snowdrift. By now, our second day, they've reached almost 3 feet to the leeward side.
Yeah, the drifts are getting pretty deep. The snow's definitely piling up right around the tent. We're gonna get buried out here.
The tent shook violently all night. Outside, the storm rages. I hardly slept. And on day 9, I began to quietly wonder where this trip was going. This adventure took seed over many years of gazing through the porthole of transatlantic flights between Europe and the US. From 30,000 feet, I was easily seduced by this white desert, which divides the North Atlantic, 2/3 of it within the Arctic Circle. Too large to be an island and too small for a continent, Greenland is, for the most part, one giant ice mass, hugged by mountains along its coasts. Its interior was first explored by Frigid, the Norwegian explorer who in 1888 made a do-or-die east-west traverse. The ice sheet slowly rises from sea level to more than 2 miles, crushing the land below it. The interior is windswept and desolate, with no food source and no life, just like a frozen sea. The ice sheet is dominated by the cold katabatic winds that pour from the top and gain speed on their way down the coast. The prevalence of winds makes the Greenland ice sheet ideally suited for kite skiing expeditions. It was only in 2005 that Nicholas Norman and his team dared the first south-north crossing on skis and kites. Had kites been perfected in Nansen's day, there's no question that he would have used them.
Yeah, we're hitting Mount Hagen for some backcountry kite skiing.
I had trained and developed my kite skiing skills in the glorious Montana backcountry. Kite skiing in itself isn't that difficult. You need snow, open terrain, and wind. The 3 don't always line up, but changing conditions is what you train for.
So you're out there and you decided, man,
It's too
this
windy.
45 has turned to 50. Here's the idea. Move the kite closer to you.
This landscape is absolutely remarkable in Montana. Unfortunately, we're still chasing wind. We haven't been very lucky. So we're driving around a lot and trying to find the proper places to launch our kites.
It's a sport where you make fast friends that share the same passion, like this crew of misfits.
We're here, Georgetown Lake, Montana. The ice is thin. When you go out, it's thicker, just for the heat from the land. So you could get a wet foot. You don't want to start that way?
Means it's gonna be a little gusty.
Good. We got wind though.
We got wind, that's for sure.
Yep, anchor. Have fun. I want to get on with 2 years. Got 3.
Montana is always a good time, but I had my sights on Greenland. The plan was simple: ascend the ice sheet at the southernmost tip near Narsak, and get off it near the northwestern village of Kanak, 2,300 kilometers later, on skis, kites, and without support, over 45 days. But our most ambitious goal? To set a new world record for the longest distance traveled in 24 hours. For that, I partnered with Eric McNair Landry. Born to a family of polar guides, Eric is an avid kiter, and at 25 is experienced beyond his years.
Hi, I'm Eric.
How are you, buddy?
I'm about to go out kite skiing.
Well, let's go.
Yeah, should be interesting. There's just enough wind.
In choosing a teammate for this trip, I knew that his skills would elevate mine and provide a good counterpoint to my 46 years. I had just crossed the Arctic Sea to reach the North Pole on foot. Between us, we had several trips to Antarctica, and Eric had kited twice on Greenland before. If anyone could do this, I felt confident we were the team for it.
Some of the challenges that we'll most likely expect on this trip is kind of two main things. The southern tip of Greenland is renowned for its bad weather. Storms, rain, and just non-cooperative winds, i.e. non-existent, high-pressure systems, winds from the north, a whole variety of things like that. So that's something to expect. And then both on the southern tip and more so on the northern tip, we will enter areas, crevassed areas. So that's a little bit of a danger there.
Exploring in modern terms has a lot more to do with pushing the limits of the human potential than it does with mapping out the world, which at this point has been pretty much mapped out by satellite positioning and such. But nonetheless, when you travel in these regions, and they're so barren, and they've been traveled by so little people over the course of centuries, and you're immersed into the history of polar exploration. So you can't help but think of Nansen and Amundsen and Peary and those great explorers. In some respect, you're echoing the very spirit of it, and you perpetuate this human nature to want to basically venture into the wild and try to find yourself in the process. Kite skiing in desolate and inhospitable environments that are cold and icy presents all kinds of challenges. The wind is your friend, but can also be your enemy if you're not careful. It really has to do with what level of respect you impart on that relationship. But there's a magnificence about these places as well, and a magnificence that generally reveals itself only to people who commit to the effort that it takes to get into them. And then you get a real privileged view of being in this type of environment. Before heading off, I flew up to Eric's hometown of Iqaluit, at the edge of the Arctic Circle, to refine our equipment and for some time on the ice, or as we call it, shakedown training. Iqaluit is a Canadian outpost town in the northern province of Nunavut, and April here still very much feels like winter. When the wind howls on its frozen bay, it makes for good kite skiing training grounds. And when the wind fails, we get to feed the dog teams and dive into food and expedition planning. Minute preparations for equipment and calories to weight ratio take days of careful planning.
And we enter it all into this very large template thing here, and it gives us back how many calories we're consuming, how much weight.
Kiting on Greenland can easily kill a man through injury, exposure, and poor planning. We aim for 40 days and pack for 45, with no guarantees. Natural conditions will determine how we fare. Finally, there's the trek to the ice. From Los Angeles to Montreal, and then Montreal to Copenhagen. All ready?
Here we go.
Bearing the customary flight delays and overweight luggage, we're then on to Kangerlussuaq in western Greenland. And finally, onto our destination, the ghostly hamlet of Narsarsuaq.
All right, we're here in Narsarsuaq. This is the final stage of our flying experience, hopefully at this stage anyhow. From here on, we should be either walking or kiting. Where are we going, Eric?
Check in so we can legitimately, I guess, get onto the ice cap. Say goodbye to flushing toilets for the next 45 days.
Always a favorite subject, that one. Toilets.
In this tiny village of 152 mostly invisible inhabitants, we finished packing before setting off. We've arranged for a fisherman to take us by boat to the foot of the ice sheet. We're told that unusually warm conditions have resulted in more glacial calving, and that the fjords are littered with ice, which will make our approach potentially difficult. From a global perspective, Greenland stands on the geopolitical front lines of the climate crisis. Where its ice to melt entirely would be mooring boats to the third-floor windows in downtown New York. As it is, its accelerated melting discharges water into the oceans at rates of 273 gigatons per year. This is especially relevant today, as the last decades boast increasingly warmer temperatures, and for Greenland, the highest fluctuation anomaly on record. As we approach the glacier, evidence of massive calving is all around us.
The water's getting thicker and thicker with ice. The fear is that some of this ice may bond as we get closer to the glacier, which would make it virtually impossible for the boat to maneuver through it. Well, definitely getting quite thick now. The boat just landed on top of a piece of ice that we're trying to get over, but it doesn't look very good.
It seems our friends don't like to concede defeat, but sometimes, when faced with overwhelming odds, the best strategy is retreat. Multiple recons of the area, and 2 hours later, we're on our way through an open channel. At last, ahead of us is the foot of the glacier. These are the last humans we're likely to see for the next 45 days. While the boat fades in the distance, we take in the quiet power of our surroundings, and the trip finally sinks in. From this point, there will be no turning back. In the midday sun, the temperatures are unseasonably warm, and all around us, the ice is bleeding. But we're officially on the ice, and about to enter another world. Ascending a glacier means flirting with crevasses. Clearly visible at first, they will become a real threat as we gain in elevation and snow covers them. With 240 pounds in tow, the sharp slope quickly challenges our breathing. With the lowering sun, the wind's cold bite gives us a taste of what lays ahead. And soon, the scale of the landscape begins to stretch all around us, and with it, the scope of our mission. Exposed, bottomless crevasses are a constant reminder of what could happen with one mistake.
Right, so that's a pretty good example of a crevasse right there with a bridge.
These visible bridges are luxury that will be lost once we reach the fern line. Sometimes, a small opening in the ice can lead to one big surprise. Like this ice cave.
We're basically under an overhang, a giant piece of ice, which is above us and producing some pretty fresh water here. And there's a moorland. It goes all the way up to the surface. You can see it sort of serpenting up all the way up to the top. Only when you come out this far can you see this kind of beauty.
At this elevation, everything is wet as the meltwater makes its way down to the ocean.
We've made it into the ice cap. This is our first night in the tent.
How's the breakfast experience, Eric?
Well, it still has a lot to be desired. We grabbed some goat milk for its high calorie. It definitely has a peculiar and very strong flavor.
The caloric value on it seemed like the right thing. The nutrition was good, but the taste, unfortunately, tastes like, pardon my French, but a little bit like ass, or at least goat ass. So we've decided to ditch the goat milk and replace it with some protein powder.
As we ascend the glacier, crevasses get progressively covered with ominous bridges, setting deadly traps at every turn. The higher we climb, the cooler the temperatures, and the more concealed they will get.
We're basically walking through the crevasse field.
Here, at least, it's pretty safe. All the snow's melted off. You can see them. It's just up there, once we pass the fern line, it might become a little bit harder to spot.
Yeah, when we get up to the fern line, we'll rope up so that if one falls, at the very least, it can pull the other one to fall on top of him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and for all four sledges.
Yeah, I mean, just in case the first one doesn't get killed with the first two sledges,
We'll send
got
another person in after them and another two sleds.
with another two sledges just to finish it off.
When the soft snow breaks underfoot, it often reveals a stream below the ice, soaking our feet.
The snow is very soft, so every so often you sink your foot down to the ankle, and there's a good, I would say like a 20-degree sloping right now on top of it, so it makes it quite a workout.
A large crevasse can reach depths of 100 feet or more. Crevasses are the result of gravity pulling an ice mass downhill and literally cracking it. We take turns in the lead, effectively splitting our chances of an accident. A good bridge will freeze over and give solid footing, but a bad one will collapse without warning. The evening's cooling temperatures firm up the bridges, and we decide to travel late in the day. As we reach the fern line, the cracks are harder to spot, slowing our progress down to a crawl. The subtle depressions in the terrain are critical signs, which can be tough to spot in the fading light.
Well, you know, over there, if we follow this this ridge there, along the way, what's that? Yeah, they seem to join up. There's an area over there where it feels like we might be able to cross it over.
After 3 days, the plateau is within reach, but we're still cautious of nasty surprises. When the ice suddenly gives from under you and your legs dangle above a dark, bottomless void. We have climbed 1,300 meters. The rising ice sheet has slowly buried the land below us, but we need more elevation to reach a favorable wind line. The daytime sun bakes the ice, making travel virtually impossible. So we rest. Pulling the sledges uphill through the soft snow would be like dragging them through syrup.
We're waiting for the temperatures to cool down so that the snow gets a little hardened on top. Right now it's very, very soft. We pretty much sink to our knees with every step, so we've spent the day basically drinking tea and saying silly things and sleeping some, and we're going to travel by night.
We're setting off. Temperatures definitely cooled down considerably. The wind's picked up. Wind's still in the wrong direction, so we're going to ski through the night again. Luckily the ice is nice and hard now, so we can ski. Won't add too much drag to the sledges. We hope to put maybe about 20 kilometers. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, probably a little bit less. Maybe 17, 15?
17, 15, something like that. Perhaps 20 if we feel like superheroes.
The landscape is now dominated by ice, with the last of the peaks fading to the south.
We got dropped off near Narsak and we're just slowly climbing up.
We basically rested all night, and this morning it's picked up quite a bit, so we're actually going to be doing some day kiting, which will be a little warmer and a little nicer than anticipated, but the wind's definitely picking up, so we're out there kiting for the first day today.
It's gonna be a hot day of kiting though. Holy shit, it'll be pretty warm. But hey, I mean, it'll be enjoyable like that.
Yeah, Hawaiian ice kiting.
Yeah, oh yeah, check these out. I don't know if they match my helmet, but they're definitely colorful.
The light surface wind barely holds the kite up, but with extended lines, the sail finds the air above, and we begin making distance. There's a feeling you get when the lines tighten, the kite fills with air, and the tug on the harness line propels you forward, using nothing but the power of the wind. It's the same feeling that has captured the imagination through the ages since Icarus. It's called flying. In 1 hour, we had covered more distance than we had in the previous 5 days, until the winds shut off entirely. By morning, we would discover a whole new side of Greenland.
What do you think of the chances to get out today, Eric?
I don't know. I mean, we'll travel. When? I'm not sure. I mean, the way physics work generally is that the winds eventually have to come down.
we're pinned down for the moment, just hoping for this stuff to come down a bit so we can get going again. Great day yesterday, super strong wind today. Eventually this will calm down, and hopefully soon. It's a full-on blizzard out there. We've been pinned down in the tent now for about 16 hours. There's a full-on storm with winds in excess of 60, gusting up to 70 miles per hour outside. It doesn't look like it's letting up, so we're probably going to be here for another day or so. Hopefully no more than that.
We're not going anywhere anytime soon. It's great to see the sun. It gives you that faint glimmer of hope. How do you get blown over by another gust of wind?
With any luck, the tent will hold up. It's giving it a pretty fair shake right now. And hopefully this will blow over and we can get back on our journey. We haven't been able to move for the last 48 hours. The winds are reaching about 60 plus miles per hour. We're not moving anytime soon. Wow. It is nasty out there.
Oh yeah. It got a little bit better at midday. The wind's kind of died down a little bit, but now it's just back up again. And if it keeps getting worse, it'll be worse than last night, which was pretty bad.
This is day 3 of being pinned down inside the tent. The winds have actually strengthened by the looks of it. I expect they're blowing at about 70 miles an hour, with gusts probably even stronger than that. We're hoping the tent will hold up at this point. Inside the tent, it's like there's a jet engine going on, and it makes it pretty tough to sleep, needless to say.
Wonderful.
The wind chill temperatures outside reach -40, but inside the tent, when the sun is out, the greenhouse effect can raise temperatures to moderate, even balmy conditions. We take turns braving the cold to dig out the tent.
Well, after 6 days of being pinned down by the winds, the spindrift has built around the tent and essentially buried its sides. And with the cold, that's gotten frozen. So now our job is to excavate the tent and making sure that we don't puncture through the fabric in doing so. And it's quite a job. It'll take quite a few hours just to get us free and ready to go on our journey.
On the morning of our 6th day, the deafening roar and familiar flapping of the tent's fabric is abating. The storm, it would seem, is finally over.
It's the last 6 days of howling winds with all this spindrift that essentially has been burying the tent up. So we've just spent the last few hours digging him back out in an attempt to get out of here.
But no sooner had we cleared the tent than the wind appeared to be building once again.
We just got done excavating our tent out of this hole. Got back into the tent and started to clean up 6 days worth of mess and pack them up in the sledges when a violent gust came, and here we are now. The winds are very strong again, and we are stuck in the tent because it's just too windy to go out and kite again. So It's almost 7 o'clock on day 6. The good news is we've excavated the tent. The bad news is that we're not on kites.
Nuts. I am going nuts. That is what I have to say. This is crazy. Losing touch with reality. Isn't this fun?
With an onslaught of winds reaching 80 miles per hour, you have to admire the design ingenuity of the sum of nylon cloth, 4 poles and a few lines to anchor them, which together amount to an oasis of relative tranquility amidst such external chaos.
It's boxing me back.
There is undeniable poetry in the violent and chaotic expression of nature's forces. In the afternoon light, the sound and the fury begin to play in rhythmic harmony, and the frigid and threatening environment turns into an ethereal dance, delicate, graceful, and expressive. By the afternoon of the 7th day, the winds came down enough to give us back control of the narrative. We dug ourselves out of our hole, and we were out of there. The wind held up, and we glided into the night, making up lost miles under a Fata Morgana moonrise.
Pretty nice way to end the bad wind spell.
Yeah, definitely a nice way to end it. Yeah, a nice 5 hours of kiting. And a couple of victory laps. Just
Yeah.
add to it, just because you can.
From adding 100-kilometer winds to 10-kilometer winds all in the span of 3 days.
Yeah, this is a lot more chilled out than the howling wind.
It's definitely chilled out. Very relaxed.
It is indeed.
Yeah, come to Greenland. Enjoy peace.
Chill.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's not crowded.
Very low population density.
Yeah, very low density. It's a country of extreme, Greenland, you know?
It is, yeah, exactly.
The winds all but died down. We can't even fly the kites up. On day 16, we did, I think, about 13 kilometers in 4 hours. What I keep thinking is it beats walking, but not by a long shot, because the wind is straight in our backs, which is probably the worst direction to have, especially in low winds, because there's virtually no pull on the kite, so it's been relatively miserable.
In dead calm conditions on an ice sheet, the silence is deafening.
Hello. This is taking a nap when there's no wind.
We settle for a nap and wait. And wait. And wait.
Yeah, no, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Neither are we.
The winds keep changing directions. Yeah. This is a windsock in bad need of some Viagra.
With the sun setting, we finally pack it in for the night and set up camp. Another day lost, and with it more miles. With 13 kilometers for the day, we're a long shot from the 508-kilometer record. What a difference a day makes. By morning, a breeze gets us on our way, and soon the soft snow glides below our skis. With clear skies and moderate temperatures, that forgotten sensation is back. The tug of the lines, the jolt forward, the taut lines to the sledges behind, and that virtually effortless propulsion forward. We're finally making miles. We settle on 2-hour runs and 15-minute breaks, and ride right into the evening when temperatures plummet to -20, firming up the ice. With the conditions on our side, we'll take a practice run at the record and push until we drop. But after 230 kilometers, a looming shape in the distance puts an end to our run.
Right out there on the horizon is Die 2. It's about 30 kilometers away. After 17 days of seeing nothing but ice, it's sort of odd to see essentially what looks like a monolith erecting out on the ice.
Like a spectre on the horizon, this abandoned military building is our trip's first objective, and a regular stop for snowmobile expeditions and the shorter east-west crossings. In the midnight sun, after 16 hours on the run, we had finally reached Die 2. Die 2 is one of 4 structures on Greenland that were part of the distant early warning system, or the dew line. Stretching from Alaska to Iceland, the dew line was a string of radar stations set up by the US and Canada to monitor Russian ballistic activities in the Arctic during the Cold War. The advent of satellite technology made the line obsolete, and it was decommissioned in the late 80s. Die 2 was abandoned in 1988. It is flanked by a runway still used to practice Antarctic takeoffs and landings, and is maintained nearby by a very small camp.
Hey there. How you doing, Sebastian?
Sebastian? All right.
What's your name?
Drew.
Drew.
Yeah.
How long have you been stationed here?
We got here at the end of April, 3rd week of April, and we stay until about that time in August.
And then after that, it gets dismantled?
Yep. The whole thing comes down and we take it back to Kangaroo Sack.
Sweet digs.
Yeah. We've got that wind generator and solar panels out there, so we've got all the power we need.
The couple at Raven Camp make up the entire population density of the Greenland ice sheet, and with months in isolation, a pet project can lead to unusual companionship.
All right, let's go tackle Die 2.
Part cathedral and part sci-fi movie set, this relic of a bygone era is a de facto stop for most expeditions on Greenland. 10 stories high, the building was raised on hydraulic columns, capable of lifting the massive structure to adjust to the shifting ice.
And here it is. The only entrance. You can smell the smell already, eh?
The place was abandoned as if in a hurry and has remained unchanged since, but for the lead paint peeling off the walls and the toxic smells of PCBs and old cigarette butts.
Oh, did you see the guest book in there?
Where is it?
It's just there on the table.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the
sign. Sign the guest book.
This is where most of the Coke is. There's some beer left over.
Oh, yeah.
Check that out.
20-year-old Coca-Cola. Do you think it's still good?
Obviously.
So basically,
They hitched the building up, they built it on these pillars. As the structure was sinking in, they basically raised the entire structure by somehow having this, it must be on hydraulics or a cranking system.
That's always a little bit creepy. I remember that from the last time.
Yeah. That's the generator room, which powered up the entire station.
This is what kept this place alive.
In this room, all the various expeditions that have come through here are signing their names.
2007, Curtis, Sarah, Eric.
An extra toilet when you've been spending a few weeks without one. Looks pretty appealing.
Oh yeah. We might have to take this one with us. Jumpy. We won't get to do this in a little while. So that's gotta be the side door to the dome, but it's obviously not open.
There are frozen egg trays and bread loaves, soft drinks by the cases, and coffee cans and sugar, as well as a metal shop, tools and electronics. Die too smells of a civilization that did not make it, a post-apocalyptic vision into the future. The purpose of this deserted building is almost prophetic. This, I can't help but think, is what we'll look like after we've gone.
This is kind of what you imagine a space shuttle to be able to like.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
With all the dials here, you can be like.
Were aliens to stumble upon this archaeological site, they might wonder what a vacuum cleaner is, but they'd get a pretty good idea of the female anatomy from the adult magazines lying everywhere. Mostly, they would think we're a pretty messy bunch and very cold-blooded to settle for such a place.
And then there's stairs.
There, yeah. All right, let's go on the floor.
Let's go check it out. Wow.
This is it.
That is pretty remarkable. We're inside the dome, which is the cornerstone of this whole operation, the whole ballistic monitoring device.
Dwarfed by this giant, we would soon leave behind the place that time had forgotten.
It smells pretty good in here. What kind of feast are you cooking?
Oh, I got some onions in there, which is a new addition from the nice people at Raven. So that's on top of our normal onions and butter, just add to the flavor. And then I have no clue. I mean, I took all the labels out of the Harvest Foodworks to save packaging, so it's kind of a little bit of a mystery surprise.
All right, day 20. We're almost about halfway through the trip now, and we've got light winds today, so hopefully we can get some mileage done. We did about 80 clicks yesterday. We need to average at least 70 a day.
The wind conditions, either too strong or too light, have so far challenged even attempting the world record. At this stage, I'm hoping we make our objective without rationing fuel and food. Our spirits remain positive, even if a little deflated. As they say, you can't get mad at the weather. On day 22, we managed to squeeze good distance from a lousy start. We've broken the 1,000-kilometer mark for the trip and crossed into the Arctic Circle. But with an honorable 260 kilometers for the day, our personal best, we're still a long shot from beating 508.
Those holes in the sleds are intense, just from the pounding on the sastrugi.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah, we've got to fix that actually today.
Yep. Yeah, unload the sled and let it dry out.
Yeah, we're going to try and create a little cushioning here for all the stuff that's falling apart. The sledges are bouncing so hard, it's literally exploding every packaging that we have. So you can see all the powders here and all the sugars and all the These packages of nuts have been turned into some sort of
Peanut butter.
Yeah, butter of almonds and peanuts.
Endless hours of bouncing over the rough ice places stress on everything. The knees, toes, ankles and back. Not to mention the risk of injury and, of course, breaking equipment. Equipment redundancy is a shaky gamble, balancing safety against additional cargo weight. And honestly, that's little more than a roll of the dice.
Knees are a little bit sore. Yeah, you're on the same tack the whole day, so the downwind foot's definitely kind of been overpressured. Loose feeling in the big toe for quite a while. Yeah, imagine going down a ski hill and you're skiing the same direction, turning the same way.
Going around the mountain.
Just spiraling around the mountain very quickly, yeah. That's kind of what we're doing.
Casting that edge, setting the edge against the pull of the kite is basically all thigh work. So much power in the legs. I mean, my thighs are feeling it. Yeah, that was one hell of a day. The beginning of the first part of it, I was really bumming. It was so slow moving and just really light wind, struggling to keep the kite up in the air. And after, what did we do? 10 hours, I think we covered maybe 70 clicks.
When the winds are light, you use your arms to work the kite back and forth in the wind window, and that generates more force. And then, of course, when the winds pick up, you end up just parking the kite in one location, and it pulls a lot. And it pulls so much that you have to really, really edge with your skis to be able to hold your ground.
We just got into the midnight sun, basically. The sun doesn't set anymore. We're just past that latitude point and at this time of the year. So we noticed it for the first time yesterday.
So we traveled right through the night and then into the day, and the joyous part about that is you get to sleep during the day when it's nice and warm in the tent. Of course, it means you travel through the night in the cold.
But yesterday we did 260, so with any luck we can push and keep doing long distances and big runs when the winds are up, which they are now actually. So we're going to get off and get the day going.
The conditions are perfect right now with strong winds pushing on a broad reach. We're going to rig big and take a shot at the record. The speed we'll be traveling tonight, our teeth are going to be rattling, so here we go. We're going off for the world record.
At this time of the year, approaching summer solstice, and for this latitude, the sun both rises and sets more or less in the north as it circles the top of the globe. That means that effectively we'll ride both into the sunset and the sunrise, while on the same bearing. The snow was firm underfoot and the sastrugi minimal. The winds grew through the night as the sun hung low on the horizon. By 4 a.m., snowdrift covered the ice in all directions, like a cloud of liquid smoke. We took 2-hour runs and 15-minute breaks for the first 8 hours. In the first 5, we had covered 250 kilometers.
Great traveling today, huh?
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. It's chilly at the moment. You know, it's what are we? 3:20 in the morning. So it's bright, but it's cold.
It's cold.
But luckily this is probably the coldest part of the day, and then, you know, by 5 we'll start feeling a little bit of warmth from that sun, but it's definitely pretty windy, and it's only getting windier.
By early morning, the winds were pulling back, but we were still crushing it. Abiding only by natural laws, fully sustained with the sledges in tow, the sense of freedom in this white vastness is like riding into a post-apocalyptic movie set. Each gust propelling us faster, farther into the great north. Hours, and we had covered 368 kilometers. At that rate, we would pulverize the 508-kilometer record. As the day progressed, however, the winds were faltering and our speeds along with them. From 60 kilometers per hour peaks, we dropped below 20. From 2-hour runs, we had scaled down to 90 minutes. And now, 14 hours in, the physical strain was taking its toll. We switched to 1-hour runs. By our next break, it was clear that the rising day would not work with us.
Yeah, chipping away at it. Slow going, but started on jet fuel this morning, but then the wind came down quite a bit, and now they're just cruising.
Winds aren't that strong, but they're still good. We'll still be able to put a little bit more mileage in today. Beautiful weather too, and it's quite warm. Yeah, the snow's starting to stick together a little bit more.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's a little heavy, huh?
A little bit heavier, yeah, but it's still pretty sweet.
A system closed in, and the winds pulled back further. The snow was heavier and slowed our progress. As fatigue set in, we began to doubt. But we were still making miles, the ski's edge biting against the pull of the kite and slicing its mark into the silent world of white. As we struggled to leave our mark on a vanishing legacy, we agreed to push for 24 hours, record or not. There was no turning back. This we'd do for ourselves and let the chips fall where they may. The sun played hide and seek with the clouds, but the winds held, even if by a thread. And then, the wind's direction shifted, loading power into the sail, and the sky cleared again. That was the break.
gotta be honest, I can't wait for this day to be over.
I am dying.
Yeah.
My knees are about to explode.
This is hour 19 on our 24-hour marathon, and we have just hit the 500 kilometer mark. We're essentially 8 kilometers away from the world record. So you excited?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a good day. What more could we want?
A nap. Our short breaks are now the most precious commodity.
This is a cat nap.
15 minutes between sections.
This is a marathon.
We pass the record sometimes during the next hour, and my first thought was respect for the previous team. Reaching 500 kilometers in a day is momentous. The monotony of the slow speed reaps havoc on the mind, while skiing on the same tack, with reduced drinking rations to boot, brutalizes the body. On a 24-hour run, liquids freeze well before the finish line, and dehydration adds to the exhaustion. We'd agreed not to check our progress until the day's end. The record was ours, and this would be our surprise. There would be no cheering crowds, no hot tub, and no masseuse. We arrived at a point determined by the clock, and that was to be our resting place for the night.
Could you do me a favor and check something for me? I believe we've set the new world record for longest distance in a 24-hour period. We did 595 kilometers.
All right, one hell of a run, huh?
I know.
Jesus.
Basically, we went from here all the way to about there. Covered this distance in one day.
I'm probably gonna lose feeling in one of my toes for quite a while just from it hitting the front of the boot. The downwind calf, you know, the one that's edging, because we were on the same tack for the whole day.
But definitely the last few hours were tough, especially the last 2 hours. And then the last hour is just a complete blur. I was not even thinking very clearly at that point. It was mind over matter.
That's the world record for longest distance, which is a hell of an accomplishment. And yeah, we'll get a free day off after this. A little bit of sleeping, a little bit of eating, and we'll be on our way again.
Polar records can be like that. Obscure, old-fashioned, and abstract. But we had done what we'd set out to do, and for now, that was reward enough. The high point may seem behind us, but it's no time to let our guard down. We have 750 kilometers still to cover, and changing weather as we head north.
Eric's on twisting the lines right now. It can be a real buzzkill as you set out to kite for the day, and especially right now we've got 3 lengths of line because it's very light wind, gives more power to the kite. But when they get tangled, it can really crush your nuts and take the buzz out of the fun. It's super light winds right now. We're on day 25th. I think we've got barely about 8 knots of wind. It looks like we might not be able to take off tonight. Doesn't look very good.
No, we can wait 10-20 minutes and see if it picks up at all. If it doesn't, who knows?
Yeah, it was a nice idea to break the tent down.
Mm-hmm. Better air quality out here.
Yeah.
Think of it that way. No benzene fumes.
Yep.
I'm not going to sleep anytime soon.
I've rarely seen somebody who can sleep as well as you do.
Yep.
In fact, you slept once kiting.
Mm-hmm. That I have done in the past, yeah.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I think you should
Birds can do it. I mean, come on. Sleep on the wing? Ah.
That's true. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm. They also have some weird things going on with their brain, but
Well, you've got some weird things going on with your brain.
maybe. But hey, we have those books to read.
Yeah. That's
right.
true. We've got a chessboard as well.
We do, yeah.
Let's have a game of chess.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
All right.
Okay.
Get cold on the hands.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging to... That's it. The kid won.
The cold one, I think.
Nice game.
If anything.
I think it's time to build the tent.
I think it's time to build the tent. Holy shit. The snow's falling straight down and
Oh, I am so cold.
that was the coldest game of chess I think I've ever played.
It is the coldest
Holy
game of
shit.
chess.
The following days would throw a mix of conditions at us, ranging from moderate to light winds and considerable snowfall. It's the ground condition that's alarming. For this latitude, season, and altitude, the snow is unreasonably soft. This is an ice sheet, not a snow sheet. The season to date would prove the warmest on record. Farther south, we soon learned that teams were being evacuated by helicopter due to massive melt ponds. We had dodged a bullet and fastidiously made our way farther north.
Well, we're just starting to see land. We've seen a couple of peaks timidly sort of appear on the horizon. First one, then the other, and then like a cloak being lifted, almost celebrating the final phase of our trip. A whole range appeared on the horizon. So we're about 45 kilometers or so from where we will stop kiting and start skiing.
We took in the last of the Great White Void. As we descended in elevation and headed west, the ice cap slowly exposed the mountain that all this time were buried under our feet. We would soon reintegrate a world dominated by land and all the social intricacies that come with it.
We've just found out that the bay's too frozen to be picked up by a boat, so we'll have a helicopter pick us up in 2 days. Having scouted preliminary the surroundings, we've elected to kite down the glacier, at least for some ways. It looks like there's tons of snow, and because we're traveling by night, the bridges are likely to be firmer, and with any luck, we can scoop by them on kite. I guess the next thing to look out for will be the bears on the coastline. Huh? What do you think about that, Eric?
Oh, they might be there. Just have to throw away the salami.
So this is the flare. That's the only protection we have against the bears here. Well, at the very best, if a bear really wants to have us, you'll have a festive 4th of July type of feel to the festivities. But anyway, that's our defense system right here. Eric's got one, although yours is a little smaller than mine.
The next phase was a treacherous maze of dead ends and crevasse fields. We carefully negotiated our way down between cracks, against the backdrop of soaring peaks and the shrouded valley below. With more exposed rock, the wet and heavy snow signaled the end of our kiting mission.
As we're descending further into the glacier, you can see the valley behind. It's pretty magnificent. There's a big fog bank there, which hopefully won't hinder the helicopter pickup tomorrow.
We finished on skis, extracting the last of the granular snow until we had reached the end of the ice. The sky was clear, the air was still, and the silence deafening. We settled on an oasis of white amidst a sea of rocks and set up camp. An amazing transition had developed in just a few hours. After weeks of isolation on the ice, the mundane was extraordinary. Lichen, moss, flowers, a bird. Life exploded all around us. It felt like re-entering Earth's atmosphere after a trip to the moon. With a day's rest, we proceeded to scale down the final 700 meters of elevation to the coast below. A steep and treacherous 7 kilometers down climb made all the more awkward for the cargo we carried with us.
You almost got me.
Okay, we're about halfway down our descent, but I'm afraid the worst is ahead of us. That's where the incline gets considerably steeper. But at least we've just done a couple of hours, and looks like we've got probably about 2 or 3 left, and then we can rest.
The quick descent in elevation brings warmer temperatures, but the sharp incline is a break an ankle or crack your skull situation waiting to happen, made up entirely of sharp-edged rocks cracked by the harsh glacial conditions. Navigating those last miles gave us plenty of time to reflect on the suspended reality of the last 40 days. We had started at ocean level at the foot of the glacier near Narsak to the south, and finished at ocean level at the base of the mountain near Kanak in the north some 2,300 kilometers later, using nothing but natural energies and without support. All around us, receding glaciers display marks of their former glory, their extent and thickness betrayed by outdated moraines and hillside scars. The setting was serene, the vistas spectacular. Out in the distance, large icebergs sprinkled the bay like floating marshmallows. The trip was coming to an end.
I wanted to give you our GPS location for the helicopter pickup.
With a flare next to us in case of surprises, we slept in the open for the last few hours of this exotic and peaceful world, before the chopper woke us both from our dream.
Oh there.
Hello.
You Finn?
Hi. Alan.
Sebastian, hello. Nice to meet you.
Same to you.
All right.
Eric.
Yeah.
You have no trouble finding it?
No.
Yeah, excellent.
2 miles, 3 miles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you have a good trip then.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, long way to Narsarsuaq. Yeah.
From Narsarsuaq to here.
Yeah.
Yeah. 40 days. Yeah.
Greenland is a country of impressions, sparse, profound, and pure. Like all deserts, it celebrates details and challenges the mind to fill the void. We had covered 2,300 kilometers in 40 days. When the helicopter took off, it flew by the rocky slopes we had scaled down, the snow patch we glided over, a campsite by the glacier, and in the distance, beyond the multitude of crevasses we had crossed, we saw the ice sheet we were leaving, alluring, gigantic, and forlorn. And what we heard beyond the chopper's rotors was an ice world's plea for help.